Maybe you know this child. They can explain the economic impact of tariffs, but cannot accept the fact that the blue cup is in the dishwasher. They ask thoughtful questions. They make connections other people miss. They can build a detailed argument for why bedtime should be 30 minutes later, and then get completely stuck when an everyday plan changes. Those things don't seem like they should exist in the same child, but they do. One of the reasons highly verbal autistic children get misunderstood is that we assume that all competence travels together. If a child sounds mature, we assume they're mature in every area. If they can explain something, we assume that they can understand the nuances of many complex issues. If they can tell us the rule, we assume they can follow it. But skills don't develop evenly. A child can have a graduate level vocabulary and a kindergarten level tolerance for unexpected change. And when people don't understand that, you, as parents, often get caught in the middle. A teacher might say, they're doing fine. A grandparent says, they seem mature for their age. Another relative says, they just need more discipline. A spouse wonders whether you're helping too much. And meanwhile, you're parenting the child who gets stuck trying to start a simple task. The child who falls apart when plans change unexpectedly. The child who can explain the rule and still struggles to follow it when they're overwhelmed. After hearing those messages often enough, it's easy to start questioning your own response. Am I expecting too much? Am I expecting too little? Am I the only one who's seeing this? If you're sitting with those questions, this video is for you. If we haven't met yet, I'm Andrea Pollack, parenting educator, coach, and parent of an autistic adult. And in this video, I want to share 3 shifts that can completely change how you respond when your child's verbal abilities make them look far more capable than they actually are in certain situations. Because when you understand what's really happening, it becomes much easier to decide how to help. Shift number 1, stop using understanding as proof that they can do it. One of the easiest traps that we as parents fall into with highly verbal autistic children is assuming that understanding and doing are the same thing. Your child understands the rule. They can even explain the rule. They may even explain why the rule exists as they are breaking it. That's often the moment when people say, but they know better. Maybe, but knowing and doing are different skills. Understanding and execution are different skills. Your child may fully understand that it's time to leave. They may fully understand that homework needs to get done. They may fully understand that the blue cup is dirty and currently sitting in the dishwasher. And they may still struggle to do what the situation requires. That's the typical lens, that if they understand it, they should be able to do it. So here's the shift. Instead of asking, if you understand this, why aren't you doing it? Ask, what is making this difficult right now? We're asking the question not necessarily for the child to answer, they may not know, but we're asking ourselves to try to understand the situation. What is getting in the way right now? Because that question leads you somewhere useful. Maybe it's flexibility, maybe it's executive function, maybe it's anxiety. Maybe it's sensory overload, or maybe it's something else entirely. But when we stop assuming that understanding equals execution, we start looking for the right obstacle so that we can help our child get through it. And that's where solutions usually begin. Shift number 2, stop using strengths to measure support needs. This is another trap that can catch parents of highly verbal autistic children. When a child sounds incredibly capable, it's easy to assume that they should need less support. And that's true in some areas, but strengths and support needs don't always move together. In fact, sometimes a child's strengths makes it harder to see where support is still needed. This happens in a lot of contexts. It happens in school where the child is excelling academically but struggling in other areas. I've worked with families whose children's advanced verbal skills actually delay the recognition of the diagnosis itself. Everyone was focused on what the child could do. Very few people were paying attention to what was hard or why, or what it cost the child. People assumed that the flaw was motivation. Your child may be able to discuss sophisticated topics. They may be academically advanced. They may have an incredible memory and still need significant support with things like transitions, with flexibility, emotion regulation, with executive functioning or perspective taking. One question I encourage parents to ask is, what is this task demanding of my child? Not, shouldn't they be able to do this by now? But what support do they need to succeed here? Shift number 3 is look beneath the argument. What do I mean by this? Verbal autistic children can be incredibly persuasive. They can explain, negotiate, challenge, present evidence, and here's the trap. Their words are so good, we follow the words. We take the bait. Their verbal sophistication can hijack our attention. They sound logical, they sound persuasive, so we respond by explaining more. I'd love to know if you relate to this. Let me know in the comments. We respond by justifying more, defending our position more, trying harder to convince them. Meanwhile, the debate is usually masking the struggle beneath it and diverting our attention away from the skill that actually needs support. Your child may be arguing about bedtime. The real challenge may be difficulty shifting away from a preferred activity or difficulty being told what to do. They may be arguing about a change in plans, but the real challenge may be the underlying need for predictability. They may be arguing about why someone is wrong, but the real challenge may be the inability to see a situation from different perspectives. The words pull our attention toward the argument, but the skill that needs support is often hidden just beneath the words. One question I find helpful is, what is my child trying to solve right now? And right alongside that, what skill gap might be making this difficult? Those questions often lead us somewhere much more productive than trying to win the debate, which is tempting. The biggest takeaway I want to leave you with is this. As I mentioned before, and I think this paints a memorable picture, a child can have a graduate level vocabulary and a kindergarten level tolerance for unexpected change. Those things can exist in the same child. In fact, they often do. One of my child's therapists once said that the imbalance of skills is like driving a Corvette on a flat tire. And once you understand that, you stop using verbal ability as a shortcut for deciding what your child should be able to handle. Instead, you get curious. What skills are strong here? What skills are still developing? What support would help my child be successful in this moment? Because the goal isn't to prove how much your child understands. The goal is to help them navigate a world that often asks more of them than people realize, because they're focusing only on their strengths. And when we focus on support instead of assumptions, things start to make a lot more sense. Has your child's verbal ability ever caused someone to underestimate the support they still need? Drop it in the comments. I'd really love to hear. And if this gave you a new way of thinking about what your child actually needs, I hope you'll consider subscribing and giving it a like. I'll see you in the next one.